Thanks for tuning in to the Old Dirty Basement. On today's episode, we're covering Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
Some might say she was a bloody, murdering countess. Others, however, would say it was all alleged.
Yeah, this is a true crime coming straight out of the 1600s here. So by the time it got to us, we could just read what we know from the internet and try to bring a good story to y'all.
That's right, man. So stay tuned to the end of this. We go over a little bit of statistics on serial killers and all that, get into that. And don't forget to like and review our show, whether it be Spotify, Google, Apple, wherever you're at. You can leave us a written review on Apple. We'd really appreciate that. And sit back, relax, and enjoy Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
This is the Old Dirty Basement, home to debauchery, madness, murder, and mayhem. A terror-filled train ride deep into the depths of the devil's den.
With a little bit of humor,
History,
and copious consciousness.
I'm your announcer, Shallow Throat. Your hosts are Dave, Matt, and Zap. I love you, Matthew McConaughey. All right, all right, all right.
hey, this is Dave,
Matt,
And Zap.
and welcome to the Old Dirty Basement.
where every week we cover a true crime.
Murder,
Or compelling story.
So sit back.
relax.
And comprehend.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back down to the Old Dirty Basement. I am Matt. With me always is Dave and Zap. Good early evening, fellas.
How's it going?
It's great. Triple hello to everyone, too.
What is that, like a triple ha?
Yeah.
So, hello, hello, hello.
Yeah, hello, hello, hello.
Hello,
Yeah.
Caved.
Yeah, we all had a long weekend. All had long weekends, I guess, but it's good to be back in the basement.
Yeah,
And
It's always good to be back in the basement.
It's cozy down here.
that's right.
Like blankets and
Mhm.
cat litter.
All kinds of good. Don't talk about cats anymore.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, yeah. You don't fuck with them. Sorry.
I'm done with cats for
Yeah.
a little while.
Yeah, man.
So what do we got going on in the basement tonight?
This is one actually, Elizabeth, as Zap would say, what is that? Bathory.
Bathory. The H is
Bathory.
silent, so spelled Bathory, pronounced in the Polish or Slovakian vernacular.
Someone stole your battery.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You remember that?
Someone. Oh, the Bathory.
That was from the Eddie Murphy.
Oh,
stand-up.
so I was thinking, Ali G in the house.
Oh, yeah. Well, it could be that too.
Prince
But it was,
Ali
I think it was Raw, or it might have been Delirious. He was talking about when you got those cars back in the 80s that would talk to you. You come out and then, you got your car out in the hood somewhere and you come out and someone stole your battery.
Nice.
That's how
It's
he
a
said
good
it.
car to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Zap.
No, I was just going to say, needless to say, Countess Elizabeth Bathory.
Yes, this is one that was brought to me by a listener, the Reeg, B. Reeg, Brad.
Rad Brad.
Yeah, dude I work with actually, old friend of mine, worked with him for a long time. Spent a lot of time down in his basements. The dude is jams, man. The guy plays drums, bass, organ,
Nice.
piano. Yeah. Actually, I just want to give a shout out to his band, Low Watts.
Oh, nice. What
They're
kind of music is that?
Spotify, just like jam band type stuff. All pretty good musicians.
Like Fish and like that type stuff?
Kind of
Like the Dead,
Like the Dead?
kind of, yeah, more like Deadish, like and a little bit of keyboard and
little
yeah,
Dave Matthews bandish.
they're pretty jammy.
Sounds jammy.
Nice.
Yeah, but spent a lot of time in the basement jamming with this dude. He let me play the drums because I can't play bass or guitar.
Oh,
So,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, he plays all, and our friend Jut too, good guitarist.
Sweet.
But yeah, this is brought to us by him.
You're not leaving the podcast of being a band, are you?
I know, that was a hella shout out, man. You
I'm
sound
getting a little nervous.
The guys are pretty good.
I'm getting a little nervous.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, this is back when the kids were young, back when we had time.
Right. Oh, this isn't recently then.
No.
Oh, okay. I got you. So yeah, what do we got on this battery?
Yes. Countess Elizabeth Bathory. She was born August 7th, 1560, to Baron George VI Bathory.
Damn, she old.
Dang, I know. One more time, that is 1560.
16.
Yeah, we're going back here,
This is
people.
back.
So pay
Going back.
attention.
That's 16th century.
This is a good story for us. That, like, all the weird shit going on today. There's some weird ass shit going on back in the 1500s.
Yeah,
too.
don't think it's just because of them internets. People were doing weird shit back then too.
Right.
Or were they? As we'll see. So yes, born to Baron George.
We can't say that word,
Well,
but yeah, we'll talk about it.
George VI and her mother, Baroness Anna. Let's see. She was essentially a Hungarian noblewoman and alleged serial killer
Alleged.
from the family of Bathory, who owned a shit ton of land in the Kingdom of Hungary, now Slovakia.
Yeah, I guess her uncle or whatever was like the Prince of Transylvania. Like, they owned a lot of shit.
Oh, they owned a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they were very, very noble.
For damn sure. And in fact, so thanks to her mother's side of the family, Elizabeth was the niece of the Hungarian noble Stephen Bathory, who was the King of Poland, the Grand Duke of Lithuania, of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and the Prince of Transylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Born into a privileged family of nobility, Elizabeth was endowed with wealth, education, and a prominent social rank.
I heard she was endowed with more than that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I've seen that painting. I've seen better.
Yeah, those paintings don't do
the paintings. Yeah, but they were saying, like, a lot of the stuff that I read, they said she was a very beautiful.
Oh, for real?
Even you know, take away all the inbreeding, she got her dad's cousin's uncle's brother's former roommate looks.
That's right. So thank you for that Spaceballs reference. It's interesting you mentioned that inbreeding, because that for damn sure was a thing back then. They wanted to. It's not unlike, let's say, modern day, if you've watched Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
So you have that. Oh goddamn, what is it? Targaryen.
Yeah, the
Targaryen house. So they would
the dragon.
Yeah, all the blondes, and they stayed blonde.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it was sisters and brothers and shit like that. Or hell, even like the Amish.
Right.
Like, I mean, that's inbreeding all day.
They want to keep it together forever and ever.
Yeah, keep it in the family.
But the thing with that, like, they don't want the blood to be messed up. So they want to be able to be like, look, you're going to get married to your cousin because his mom and dad are cool.
Yep.
It's my brother.
Yep.
And we want to keep the blue eyes and blonde hair, whatever.
Keep it all together. Yeah.
You also don't want to split that wealth up either.
Right. No. You're talking, this isn't like talking millions of dollars. This is talking like towns.
This is entire towns.
Regions.
Continents.
Yeah.
Continents. Huge. Tremendous.
So just to put in perspective, this is in Transylvania at the time, you
So
said?
this is, while Transylvania is a part of it, this was in, just call it Hungary.
And
Yes, Hungary.
It's like a sprawling area there, which is now today, or not Hungary anymore. It's what, Romania and
Slovakia.
Slovakia. Yep. Okay, I got you.
She spent most of her childhood at Exed Castle in eastern Hungary. So in eastern Hungary, that's the part that's borderline what was at the time Transylvania. The western side, not so much. But the eastern side, that's all Transylvania land all day.
A lot of woods.
A lot of woods.
Yeah.
Which is the Transylvania thing. That's where a lot of the Dracula thing, a lot of this was based on accounts of her life, correct?
Right.
There is a similar thread.
Okay.
At best, there's a similar underlying tone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, good word.
But as we'll see, was it? Who knows?
Could have been.
What I do know is that as a child, she experienced multiple seizures that may have been attributable to epilepsy. Fun fact: at the time, epilepsy was known as the falling sickness, and treatments included rubbing blood of a non-epileptic person on the lips of the epileptic person, or giving the epileptic person a mix of non-epileptic's blood and a piece of their skull when an episode ended. So
a piece of their skull?
So you get a dead person, like a recently dead, corpse-ish dead thing.
Right.
That wasn't an epileptic. And you're just sitting around waiting. Next thing you know, when a seizure happens right at the end, give them the blood and give them a little bit of the bone of the skull.
But then too, when you have like you said, the epileptic seizures, which you did have, and you own, half of the world at the time, or little chunk of the world.
Yep.
There's ways to make that happen quite easily.
Hell yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But you give me 24 hours, I can find you a pinky.
Mm-hmm.
People go missing and it's not really a big deal, or
not even that. Yeah, just like, I mean, there's
bodies and
the nobility back then. I mean, the way that people were
Like you lose an arm, just go find a common guy, cut their arm.
Yeah, cut their arm. Give me that arm.
We need that.
That's right.
Go get that guy. Who's that? I don't know. Go get him.
What's he doing? It doesn't matter.
Well, we've talked about this before with the one Amish killer. So in the Amish community, I mean, they just keep breeding and breeding and breeding and breeding because it's more to take care of the farm. And look, hey, one of the kids dies, make another one.
Right. You need more workers. Just get
exactly.
And
Right.
that was with her too. I think she had a couple. I mean, we'll get there.
We'll
She
get
had,
there.
Yeah, some babies that didn't quite make it.
Oh wow, no, it's so sad.
It's not sad because it was in the 1500s, so it doesn't count. We can make fun of anything we want to.
That's fair.
Nobody's around.
Yeah, nobody's nobody's there to like take feelings for it. Be like, hey man, too soon.
Yeah, too soon.
Well, speaking of too soon, in 1573, at the age of 13, Elizabeth was engaged by virtue of an arranged marriage to Count Ferric
Nadasti, like nasty Nadasti,
Nadasti.
Nadasti. We'll go with Nadasti.
Nadasti. Hey, Nadasti. It's nasty Nadasti.
Yes, exactly.
So engaged to Count Ferenc Nadasti,
Nadasti.
a member of the Nadasti family.
And 15 was common law back then. You could get married at I think 11, but she was a little older.
They were probably like planned marriages and all that stuff.
Yeah.
This is coming to America stuff. This is arranged marriages for sure.
But for people listening, I mean, you had to get married at a young age because, I mean, the elder in the community was like 28.
Yeah, life expectancy wasn't nearly as long as it is now.
If you're in your 50s, you're ancient back then. Yeah.
True.
On May 8th, 1575, still only 14, not quite yet 15, Elizabeth and Nadasdi were married at the palace of Vranov nad Tuplo
That's close enough.
in Hungary. Now, this marriage combined the family's land ownership in both Transylvania and the Kingdom of Hungary. So, Transylvania, call it a territory of Hungary, but it was still independent of Hungary. Think about it this way. If Texas decides to sever its ties with the United States, it's still going to be a territory of the United States.
Right. Because it was within it. Yeah.
But it's landlocked in there, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be its own sovereignty. But what the fuck do I know about Texas? I'm just using it as a poor example.
Right.
Think of Puerto Rico or Guam or some shit like that.
Right.
Guam hater.
A territory, but not a state.
Right.
But maybe the Guam and Puerto Rico was better than Texas. Because honestly, I do think that's why they call it the Lone Star State. They have that ability in their constitution. Like, look, if we don't like the United States,
We're out.
we're out.
Long story short, they own some shit.
They own some shit.
Yeah, they
That's
had
right.
shit, and they're like, we'll put more shit on top of the shit we already have.
So Count Nadasti's wedding gift to Elizabeth was his home castle.
What a gift.
Yeah, his home castle, the accompanying country house, and 17 adjacent villages, not huts, villages,
Entire villages. Yeah.
situated in a small mountain range in Slovakia called the Little Carpathians.
Oh, how cute.
How cute.
Yeah.
So adorbs. In 1578, 3 years into their marriage, Count Nadasdi became the chief commander of the Hungarian troops, leading them to war against the Ottomans.
And they had a whole empire.
Ottomans.
Crazy Ottomans.
I got an Ottoman over there.
Yeah.
Sit on it.
Comfy as hell, too,
Yeah,
man.
it does. The Nadasti dynasty.
So with the dynasty.
The dynasty.
That's good.
So as Count Nadasti heads off to war, Elizabeth was left to manage business affairs and the family's multiple estates, defend her husband's estates, and with ultimate responsibility for the Hungarian and Slovak people.
Yeah, she didn't see him too much. He was a busy guy.
No, he was out. He was away.
Yeah.
How did you police all that shit? You know what I'm saying? Like if you're just
You're not
two.
doing it alone.
Yeah. So you got like a whole crew.
You got a crew.
Yeah.
Plus, people were afraid of nobility back then. Also, you really didn't.
Well, no,
act
they had
up
power
or-
and shit. But
Yeah.
I guess they had their own little, like he said.
And you really didn't
yeah.
worry about the peasants too much. Like whatever they were doing, as long as they didn't mess with your castle, like I don't think people really cared, or the nobles didn't really care.
Yeah.
I mean, you see those shows like the slums are like the slums, man.
So we've seen things like, here's a great example. Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right? Kevin Costner. So there's a fine balance
I
between...
would go more the men in tights. I think that was funnier.
Okay.
That was a good one.
There's a fine balance between taxing the shit out of your people and there's a responsibility associated with that. It's like, look, it's almost like mob stuff. Like, give me some of your money.
And we'll protect you.
And in return, we will protect you. We'll take care of you. If you get sick, we'll do this, that, and the other thing. If you fucking die, we'll take care of your family. Blah, 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 blah. Just know that you are working for, the crown. You are ultimately working for the crown. That's just simple nobility. That's how it works.
Socialism at its crookedness.
Yeah.
Kind of crooked.
Yeah, really crooked. But they were like, yeah, we'll take care of you. Pay us money, and things will be cool. We'll give you like a chicken wing.
Yep. Bling, bling, chicken wing.
Yep.
So while so back and forth, they do get to see one another. And Elizabeth's first child, Anna, was born in 1585. She later birthed Orsolia in 1590.
Man, fuck these names, man. I don't even know how you keep up.
Dude, I know.
Or
Just
Solia.
make-
Yeah, just get close.
Make it
Yeah,
up.
Yeah.
You can make them up.
Bill. There was Tim
Next
and
was
Tommy.
Caitlin.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
there
better.
you go. All right.
Call me Caitlin.
Yeah.
In 1594, Andre in,
See, these
in
get better.
1596, and Paul in 1598.
It's more like it.
They said, is it Dre? Is it Dre? That's what they called Andre.
Now,
Andre.
before all of these kids, there was an allegation. She was alleged to have had a bastard son at the age of 13.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
yeah,
this is easily disputed because these rumors did not surface until well after her death. And we'll see. Just
a lot of the story.
we're going to see exactly how much rumors mattered back then.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, alas.
Look at all these rumors.
Mm-hmm.
Lie to me every day.
Alas, her
I
husband,
like that song. Yeah.
her husband, the Count, died on January 4th, 1604, at the ripe old age of 48. I mean,
That's not far off.
that's Jesus.
Dude, I am 48.
That's a year and a half for me, man. I don't want to be there.
Mm-mm.
All right. So now, a little bit of a backstory, shall we?
Yes, go back. Way back.
Now, the Habsburg dynasty is one of the most prominent in European history. Hungary was a part of this dynasty. Now, during the time of Elizabeth, Transylvania was a separate principality within the Kingdom of Hungary, and it was ruled by her nephew, Prince Gabor, outside of the Habsburg dynasty.
No relation to
Zsa
Zsa Zsa.
Zsa. Yeah.
Not at all. P.S. That's his first name, Gabor.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
His last name remains Bathory.
Oh, gotcha. All right.
I just don't need to say Bathory every
Yeah,
time.
Every time, yeah.
Although the way that the tongue hits the back of the top teeth to make that H silent, Bathory.
Bathory.
Yeah.
Bathory.
Transylvania's political independence not only irritated the shit out of the Habsburg in their quest for absolute power, but it also limited the Habsburgs' royal sovereignty over Hungary. Again, it's that whole idea. We're kind of hungry, but we're still...
We got our
Fuck,
own,
I
we
mean,
got
it's-
our own shit.
I'm kind of hungry.
Yeah.
So we're kind of part of Hungary, but we're not. We are when we need to be, but
Right.
we
When it's
aren't when we want to be.
When it's convenient.
Mhm. Thanks to her wealth and authority, Elizabeth had become a target through whom the Habsburg could reach the entirety of the Bathory family. But it wasn't just her close ties to the Prince of Transylvania. In fact, upon her husband's death, Elizabeth's own wealth and property was combined with that of the Nadasdy family's wealth
Yes.
and property, which she now had the right to manage. All of it. So we talked about this earlier. So it's just the combining of,
Wealth.
Yeah, both
Power.
Well, she won the Nadasdy lottery,
and she had both, and you know it.
Yeah.
which she made a lot of people know that.
Yeah. So she now has rights to all of this shit. And once her husband died, she became the owner of one of the largest estates in all of Hungary. Her lands and fortresses had stretched all the way from the east to the southwest of the Hungarian kingdom. Again, looking at me. So east is going to be Transylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So she's just going down a little bit to the southwest. Just the tip.
Right.
Just a little
A
bit.
little bit.
It don't count then.
Lot.
It's not her land.
She got a lot of dirt.
She's like Yellowstone, but on steroids. You know
True.
what I mean?
Now, it's because of her vast holdings that she ultimately became both the pawn and victim of a political strategy aimed to secure Hungary's power over Transylvania. Basically, the hopes of uniting the whole piece of dirt all together. Now, here we are. Enter this dude, George Thurzo, who was the Palatine of Hungary beginning in 1609.
I thought he was a hockey player.
Yeah.
George.
George.
Yeah.
Now, the Palatine of Hungary was the highest ranking office in all of Hungary, appointed by Parliament. Now, only a year prior to
Not
this,
George Clinton.
not George Clinton.
Okay.
So
Black,
only
brown.
paint it.
Yes.
So only 1 year prior to this was the end of where the Palatine was appointed directly by the king. That changed in 1608, where instead of the king, it then went to Parliament to appoint this guy. This would be the equivalent of, what's the dude from the person from fucking England?
Prime Minister.
Is it the Prime Minister?
Sinister. Pete Nice.
Yeah, like fucking Winston Churchill.
Yeah, Prime Minister.
Yeah. So that. Yeah,
Pete
sorry,
Nice.
sorry about the stroke there. It's definitely Prime Minister. So with this role of a Palatine, you have nearly absolute power over all national affairs. Now, this cat, George, was a huge, tremendous ally of the Habsburgs. And he, thanks to that, he also wanted to desperately wanted to rule Transylvania. So in his mind, he's like, Habsburgs are running Hungary proper. These assholes are running Transylvania.
Bathory.
The Bathories are running Transylvania.
Right.
I want Transylvania, and I want this way I can make friends with them, and I can run this John, and everybody fucking wins.
Right. This is like Game of Thrones, kind of like the
Oh,
show.
100%. 100%. So in March of 1610, George became involved in a very failed assassination attempt on the life of Prince Gabor. Again, that's the ruler of Transylvania. Now,
Like Harrelson there.
just like it.
Yeah.
Now, according to some scholars, around the same time, he began to concoct stories and spread rumors about Elizabeth. Now, understand that the Bathory family was Calvinist. The Habsburgs and the majority of Hungary were Roman Catholic. Now, Catholics at the time, and not for nothing, kind of still to this day, were swift to fear and, in turn, think the worst of anything Protestant. And now, obviously, this includes Calvinism, which is what the Bathories were.
It's just like that's an offshoot of Christianity, like a different.
So it's all with the exception of like Judaism, Islam, Buddha, whatever.
Any of these other ones are Christianity.
Catholic, Protestant, you name, that's all Christianity.
It's all the Jesus stuff, man.
Right.
It's all Jesus.
It's all Jesus.
It
every
still
day.
amazes me though that there's so many dozens of different religions, worshiping the same God, believing the same Savior, and yet there's different religions. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah.
Same Jesus.
Right.
It's like
Could be your own.
that's like
personal Jesus.
like my Jesus can beat up your Jesus.
right.
Whatever. So going through this story, and you'll hear this unfold here. This reminds me so much of Luca Magnotta.
Oh.
So much, so very much, because this
Who, George?
Count
George.
George started to concoct stories and rumors to spread about Elizabeth, and he planned this out. Like this took a good amount of time for him to do. Now, once enough rumors had spread, and they'd made their way to the king, King Matthias II, the king assigned none other than George to investigate. So it's like Magnotta with that Canadian murderer, right? So Magnotta set up that story that,
about the serial killer girl. We're together. And
like, they're dating. Look at who's dating. Oh, these two were dating. Like he photoshopped his face onto pictures next to her, punched to the face, pile drive to the face.
Kick to the face.
Just to not but months later call somebody up and call in and say, no, it's not true. It's not true. I swear it's not true.
Right.
Smear campaign. Complete smear campaign.
They were saying that Nasty Nadazdi, and they said that that Bathory was into some like kind of like weird sexual stuff as when they first got married, to the point where Bathory grew up in one of these crazy rich families, right? So you always got like that weird.
Well,
anything goes. You're allowed to do anything.
Yeah, you can do anything.
Well, that and I don't know if we'll get into anything later on about her, like her parents dying when she was real young.
Yeah, go for it.
She was like, I think like 10 years old. I think both parents died within like a year of each other, something crazy like that. And when we'll get into, I guess, the alleged crimes and stuff that she got into, but there was a couple things that I guess, one thing that like stood out that she witnessed when she was, you're talking about her being into weird shit.
Yes.
Is that there was a gypsy, I guess that they caught and stealing or trying to steal. And usually they'd cut their hands off or do something like that to punish them. But this particular gypsy, they sewed him into a horse, like gutted the horse, sewed him into the horse, so just his head was sticking out. And she sat there, and they, like, according to accounts of people that talked, that she stood there and was laughing at it, and she thought it was like, she thought it was like funny and like kind of like.
Look,
she
not
took
for nothing. If I see a human body sticking out of a horse, I'm probably gonna laugh.
Right, but she was amused by it and like, oh my god, that's like the coolest thing ever. Like to her, it was like the coolest thing she ever saw. Like what, like kid would look at that and go, you know what I mean? She was not at all repulsed, and she like kind of enjoyed it.
This to me sounds like one of those goddamn rumors that were spread after her death.
That's what I'm talking. Yeah, there's all these crazy stories like that, and I'm sure you're going to talk about some of the stuff that she allegedly did.
Oh, absolutely,
right. But there's stories like that.
Yeah, and saying the stories too that I was reading from these different articles about people that were there, people that witnessed, but like family members were saying that like they had uncles and aunts that were very into, like, they were Satanists. Some were. She had an aunt that she was very close to that was into sadomasochism. And for people that, like, sadomasochism is a psychological tendency on sexual practice characterized by both sadism and masochism. Sadism being inflicting pain and masochism receiving pain, which I was confused about that sometimes.
So it's like the best of both worlds.
Yeah, look it up.
I've been told I'm a giver.
Not a receiver.
No, I'm more of a giver.
A giver.
So you're sadist.
I would be the sadist.
Yes. But also that when she was young and into like the sexual stuff with Nasty Nadasty, he was into this weird stuff with her also. And they actually built like a torture chamber for each other. Like he built her one to please her, just to be like, this is something. So it's kind of like that with like 50 Shades of Grey or whatever that's called.
Yeah. Like twisting nipples and doing weird
what's
shit.
that movie, Shades of Grey?
You're right, I think.
Was it 50 Shades of Grey?
50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, but he actually built her like a whole like sex torture chamber type thing that she was into at like 15, 16 years old.
Actually, Anne Rice writes a lot about that. Like, she's had a couple of books about nothing but like beating the shit out of people while they're doing sex stuff.
It's funny you bring up Anne Rice, because I'm wondering if she was inspired by this, like this. You know, we were talking about Dracula and vampires and all that stuff,
right?
But like her
witches and shit.
Yeah, this girl's story or alleged story.
But
alleged.
But there's accounts of everything. Like a lot of this stuff couldn't have been made up. People were seeing what was going on.
Were they?
Man.
Were they?
My only question with any of this is that it's like so long ago. Like you wonder how much is
embellished or made up.
Of course.
And like over the years, kind of like any story.
But again, as we were talking, these people were so insanely rich at the time. And it seems to be a thing that you see a lot of like rich people, like the Epstein stuff. He just dude just couldn't have regular sex, so he had to get underage girls. Or there's these guys, you know,
Pizza.
they just they just couldn't do like regular shit.
You're bored with it.
So the shit they were into, they're like, man, I can have this and this anytime I want. I want to have this. Let's try this. So yeah, just some weird shit.
So according to accounts that I've read, George spread these rumors, made the way to the king, and now the king charges George to investigate. In March of 1610, George ordered 2 notaries to do the legwork. By October of the same year, they'd accumulated 52 quote-unquote witness statements. By 1611, that number of quote-unquote witness statements grew to over 300. Now, what were included in the witness statements, you ask? Allegedly, Elizabeth was accused of, according to the statements, she had murdered young women of other noble families after they'd been sent to her to learn courtly etiquette. She maintained torture chambers in every one of her estates. She tortured and murdered her servants. And the final, she bathed in the blood of young women in order to preserve her youth.
Yeah.
Now, they did say there were no real accounts of that, but they said the other things that they did have actual written accounts or people have witnessed. But again, we're talking 1600, shit like that.
Yeah.
Now, here's where the shit gets interesting.
Deep.
For what I call a show trial. So in this show trial, almost a trial by media, after all of that, Elizabeth and 4 of her servants were arrested on December 31st, New Year's Eve, 1612. Here comes the trial. Investigations failed to turn up any concrete evidence. Elizabeth was arrested and imprisoned without any formal charges, summons, or sentencing. In the end, she was accused of conspiracy against the Habsburg rule and mass murder of young noblewomen, respectively. Now, this trial included forged evidence, the dissemination of false rumors, and the use of horror stories to intimidate and manipulate witnesses. So understand that these investigations occurred only within Western Hungary, not Eastern, where, she happened to live
Right.
and have all of her estate and all of her lands and where she hung the fuck out all the time. No. George had his dudes conduct their investigations only on the west side.
In the western town of Hungary.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, a land under George's.
Eastern boys.
West
West
End
End girls.
West End girl. Dun, 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 dun.
Please continue.
No, I'm sorry. I should have started singing instead. So
Good song.
these investigations occurred only within Western Hungary, which was, of course, under George's rule and jurisdiction as Palatine. Witnesses were only those within George's circle of influence, friends, and relatives.
That sounds like some OJ trial to me, man.
For damn
Come
sure.
on.
And each of the witnesses had first been peppered with stories of murder and torture.
So they kind of filled their brains with it.
This is that thing. So the rumor campaign started, and it gets repeated and repeated, and then months later, you ask somebody, "Hey, man, what can you tell me about this? This Elizabeth woman?" "Oh, well, from what I hear, she does this, that, and the other thing." Blah 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 blah.
Hearsay.
Now, now I say that because all testimonies in this were based solely on word of mouth. George's propaganda campaign would make Elizabeth's assumed guilt what they call common knowledge. Now, in the 17th century legal practice, common knowledge was frequently accepted as evidence equal to or even substituting witness testimony. So the rumor campaign ultimately manipulated public opinion to construct evidence admissible in court. So is that, you picking up what I'm putting down? This blows my mind. Now, so with all of this in their minds, it's like, oh man, I heard she's a whore.
Right.
Somebody else said, yeah, man, I heard she's a whore.
And it just becomes true then.
It becomes true. So among the over 300 people who would testify, none of them had been hurt. None had family, friends, or relatives who had been hurt, and none could serve as eyewitnesses who might have actually seen the actual events. This was all word of mouth. During this same trial, Elizabeth herself was never permitted to speak for herself, nor was anyone else allowed to testify on her behalf.
She pleaded the fifth, maybe.
To be clear, she was not permitted to speak for herself.
They said no.
Nor was anyone else allowed to testify on her behalf. Ultimately, this whole thing was a nationwide rumor campaign, trumped up charges, and forged evidence against Elizabeth. It was a smear campaign and essentially the long con that had been put into play years earlier by George. Fun fact, while this whole trial was happening, while all of this was going down, George continued his attacks against Gabor in hopes of taking the Transylvanian throne for his own. I'm saying like catapults, attacking the fucking castle and shit.
Right.
You said also there was servants and stuff that were coming that they would call, I guess, I don't know how they did, they call to the stand or whatever. Is that like a thing then or whatever they did?
Sure.
So yeah, these servants that were on the west side, right? Through Georgo.
West side, George.
I guess they had servants come up saying, yeah, we buried, we can't be there. We have no culpability in this murder. Like we didn't help with anything, but yeah, we might have buried 30 to 50 some people in the castle.
Wasn't there like
a
ledger they said that they found, or they said that there was a ledger?
Oh, where, it says,
650.
after these, Thurzo continued to investigate the Countess. One witness stated that Bathory herself had listed 650 victims in her papers that she kept, like her own records. Kind of like how the mobsters had like a book.
Right.
Now, there is
certainly
an explanation to that as well. So this broad was actually considered a healer. So remember we were talking earlier when husband went off to war, she's ultimately responsible for all the kingdoms and all the people in the fucking kingdom. Well, this woman was essentially like the Red Cross lady.
Oh, really?
So people got sick, people got hurt. They came to her place, and her nurses and whomever would try to help these fucking people.
Really?
So if you go to the hospital, people die at the hospital all the time.
Where do you put the bodies? In the castle?
Doesn't mean the doctor killed them. The doctor tried. They just died while they were with the doctor. This is exactly that.
So this might be called Saint Elizabeth Bathory.
Could have been.
Story we're doing.
Could have been. This Elizabeth was a saint.
It might be.
Saint Bathory.
We're here to tell you maybe she was a good person. Is that
I don't know what just happened there. Were you chanting?
No, also, yeah. Saint Bathory, pray for us.
Oh,
from church.
You guys, how long have you guys went to church?
Us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
God, we went there half of our lives. Well,
Yeah.
not anymore, but
bell
yeah.
things in the background.
Any Catholics out there might get that joke.
I get it.
Thanks.
Right.
I loved it.
Thanks.
So look, thanks. So look, man, there is, again, 650 people die, whatever. She was trying to save their fucking lives.
They were natural causes.
Natural causes. She's trying to do everything they can.
So you don't think she wanted to delve a little bit? Like,
No.
look at all this blood. Maybe I'll take a bath. in it.
No, that's all. No. And I read further and I didn't even bother writing it down, but that for damn sure came into that concept where, oh my God, all these people are dead. There's blood everywhere. You've been to a medieval fucking, emergency room. You're going to see blood all over the goddamn place.
True.
Right.
True. They did say something too when she was a kid, like she got turned on to it because of her seizures. I guess somebody put blood on her cheeks and she felt like it made her look younger, healthier. And I don't know if they used the skull bone yet or whatever. But
Think about this, man. Just put this in the back of your head. This chick had two parents who died when she was very young.
Right.
She herself suffered from epilepsy. Don't you think there's something that's just going to get into her mind that says, man, I wish my parents were still alive. I wish I didn't have epilepsy, or I'm glad that I somehow came out of epilepsy. I want to do something with my life to further the lives of others, help people to live. I want to be a healer. I want to help things out. And it's funny you mentioned things like the gypsies earlier.
Yeah.
That look, so like the Transylvanians or Romanian or whoever those gypsies are versus other European means of medicine, they're gonna differ. It's just like now you have like holistic medicine versus the
Traditional stuff.
the traditional, the American Medical Association.
not
shit.
long ago, the Amish dude, he was popping toes.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Popping toes and having that
black strap.
black
Yeah.
strap.
Here,
No,
eat some of this and I'll pop some toes, man. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Same thing. Absolutely the same thing. Well, subsequent to the trial, 3 of Elizabeth's servants who'd been tortured into testifying against her, i.e., they were on the side of the prosecution at this point, they were executed. They were actually executed as having been accomplices. So they essentially turned state's evidence, but there was no fucking deal. You know what I mean?
Right.
They were executed for having been accomplices. 2 of them, who were women, had their fingers torn out and were burned alive. And the other one, who was a dude, was beheaded. Now, there was a 4th servant who'd been deemed as an accomplice, but she only received a life sentence, as she was able to present evidence that she'd been tortured into helping the other servants. Essentially, look, I did this, but I was just doing what I was told by not only my boss, the Countess, but 3 other servants that beat the shit out of me and made me do it for fear out of my life. Fear for my life.
Right.
So she got life in prison. Oh, wow. Elizabeth was confined to a life sentence of house arrest in her castle.
Is this like the first? I was curious about that. Is it like the first person to ever be put on like house arrest?
And that's not a bad house arrest, by the way.
Yeah, she lives in a castle.
But she was confined to that room, though, right? Or no?
They say, but others say that she had free roam all around the fucking castle.
Even she could probably get outside every once in a while.
Yeah, it's not like she was hanging out in the Tower of London or some shit, like
Right.
stuck up there, like fucking,
Rapunzel.
yeah, bats in the belfry or something.
What if they had she had like a PO or something come every while, like test her, make sure she ain't on no drugs.
Smoking no weed.
Yeah,
nothing.
drinking.
Maybe.
I mean, there were
Blood
certainly
test.
dudes. There were certainly people there, like to make sure that she stuck around and tended to the castle and did whatever. Anyway,
Right.
I don't know. In mid 1614, she completed her will, bequeathing all property and future inheritance to her children. On the evening of August 20th, 1614, she complained to her bodyguard that her hands were cold. She went to sleep and was found dead the following morning.
That's wild.
That is why.
I wonder what the hands cold meant.
I don't know.
Poor
She's a
circulation or
vampire.
something.
Well,
I don't know.
could have been poor blood flow. Could it have been Maybe they roofied her.
Could be, yeah. Maybe they gave her something.
Bad pudding pop.
Right. So there's some that say that she's like the most prolific female serial killer of all time.
That's what the Guinness Book of World Records
In fact,
claims that.
she holds the Guinness World Record.
But from what I'm hearing,
It's all alleged.
It's alleged. So we have no proof.
But that's what I'm saying. We're saying a story.
But yeah, so like that's the thing with these crimes. I guess it's so long ago. It's just all like basically stories passed down.
No, but it was a whole, like you said, a whole theory. I think just to get her out of what she owned. Like
100%.
Yeah, these people just wanted.
So it was
that.
a con, or like a
Huge con.
not a con. What am I trying to say?
Land
They
grab.
railroaded her basically.
Fuck yeah.
But then again, in order to come up, there some of the shit I think was like the stuff that they say too. Like she was that she would bite like some of her.
Do you think she killed anybody?
I'd say she would have to have just
I
trying
don't think
to heal. I think is that what you're going to say, or
No.
Go ahead, Zap.
Because I can't see it that way. We got into this in another podcast. There's the concept of murder and manslaughter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Both of those involve the illegal killing, the non-legal killing.
Mm-hmm.
And I use that term very strongly because a convicted murderer can be legally killed by virtue of lethal injection, electric chair, you fucking name it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and I don't need to get too deep, but until recently, doctors nationwide could legally murder babies through abortion.
Right.
So murder and manslaughter are the illegal taking of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm asked, did she kill anybody, i.e., did she murder anyone? I'm going to say fuck no.
So there's some manslaughter all over the place, though.
I would say that they're not even manslaughter. And I say that because, again, I'm going to harken back to that concept of being a doctor. If I show up at the doctor with 10 gunshots in me, and that doctor's trying to put me back together, put old Humpty Dumpty, Zappy Pappy back together again, and it doesn't work, does that mean that doctor's a killer?
He's just trying his best.
He's doing his job.
But don't you think her being a little into the macabre?
Well, there was something too about her.
I just like watching your mouth move as macabre came out of your mouth. Macabre.
Yeah.
Like your chin like stroked out.
Stroked.
It was trying to push an R, but it became a
Yeah, I tried to do the macabre or whatever it is. But don't you think like when you have these people coming in to the crib, to the castle crib, and you're like, hey, nurse lady, bleed that one out a little bit. Let me see what happens.
So
like, don't you think you're in complete control? Like she was probably like, I'm going to try to help these people, but in a way, she might have been getting off on all the weirdness going on.
Well, what about all that stuff with her husband that ended up passing away? Was it Frederick or
What, Nadasti?
I don't know if it was Nadasti. I forget which one that he was into like torture, but he wouldn't kill. He was just into like
he was into
the
torturing.
torture stuff, and that she kind of was into the same type stuff.
I can neither confirm nor deny these scandalous rumors.
There's allegations, yeah.
Allegations. These are allegations brought on by her competitors.
Yeah, but they said that she would like bite shoulders and breasts. She would try to like get blood from them. She
Cut
like
off fingers,
She liked
do
burning flesh. She cut off genitals.
So she was into the kinky shit.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, when they brought these people, like you said, were these actual, but a lot of these stories might have come from people being brought in where she was taking care of her, trying to heal as a healer, and saying, cut off his left pinky and right big toe. We'll see what happens.
The finger pulling didn't work.
Yeah. So so I think she started getting into some like deeper shit, and even thinking that like maybe she did like eat some of the victims. I don't know.
Here's what I do know. One more time. Of the more than 300 people who would testify on this against this, none of them had been hurt. None had family, friends, or relatives who had been hurt, and none could serve as eyewitnesses who could have otherwise corroborated seeing these actual events. This was all word of mouth, hearsay.
So why would Guinness have her as the most prolific woman serial killer?
Well, here's a question for you.
Maybe Guinness is fucked.
Maybe they're wrong.
Maybe
it's one of those old encyclopedias that's out
Could
of
be.
date.
Do we talk about how
at
Guinness
the
got
grocery
started?
store.
Do we talk about that?
Maybe they're drinking too much of their own product.
No, but did we talk about like how the Guinness Book of World Records got started?
No, but I'm intrigued.
Okay, fun fact. I read about this just a couple weeks ago. The Guinness Book of World Records started in Ireland, and it was through the Guinness Company. It was to end and the end all and be all of like bar disputes. Because you know how you said people would start this shit and be like, no, this.
He ran
this,
it faster.
Yeah,
He
this
did
guy
it.
was the fastest man in Ireland and this and that. And
So
then
the Guinness Book of World
Guinness
Records.
went and started researching these facts. Be like, no, Tommy Harry is the fastest guy in Ireland. It's right here. We have it So it was a way to end bar disputes.
That's fucking awesome.
And that's how the Guinness Book of World Records was started.
Dude, that's great.
So do you know
It's
who
like the first internet.
That's fantastic. I was going to say, yeah.
before the internet? Yeah. Do you know who the earliest serial killer on record ever was?
Give me a second.
Vlad the Impaler.
King Herod.
No, I don't even know if you're gonna know who this is. Gilles de Rais.
Huh?
He died in 1440. He was a companion at arms with Saint Joan of Arc, and he was later a convicted, confessed serial killer of children. He killed like hundreds of them. He would torture them and do crazy shit like that. But this guy actually admitted to it all. He's like, "Yeah, I did it." He had like people helping him out and shit. But he was the first, like, documented, confirmed serial killer that he killed.
Again, very interesting that you use that. This one was, associated with children.
Yeah.
So I had said King Herod for the same reason. Because King Herod was the one that said the prophecy at the time was that, a child's going to be born, and eventually that child's going to be, the son of God. That child's the son of God, and he's going to do this, that, and the other thing. So King Herod went out and started killing all the fucking kids, or like all the newborn kids. That's why you have things like, like Passover, and you have, all of this stuff, like all of these, the things that we grew up with.
Right.
That knowing, like, hey, this guy went out and he killed all of these Jewish kids.
Yeah.
He killed all of these kids. But maybe that's just a story too.
Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, we really don't know.
Like the false story of Countess Elizabeth
Bathory. Just if you go online and look up earliest known serial killer, that's the name that comes up. So
there had to have been some sort of, like I said, I think a lot of the facts, or maybe some of her servant people, like, were telling these guys this, and they were just using that to fuel the fire. Maybe they weren't as bad as she had to have done something, though. Well, first of all, a lot of it says it started with children, and then you read other accounts, and it was her servants, and then it was back to she killed 650 children, and you're like, what? So
can you really believe anything really, unless you were there and witnessed it? You know what I mean? Everything's like you could say it with anything, I guess.
Thanks
like
to Photoshop, I can't believe anything anymore.
Right. There's talk now of like AI taking over for everything, like you see on videos and TV.
Did you see that Megan movie?
Terminator, for Christ's sake, why are they doing it with this AI stuff? Please turn off the AI. It's scary as fuck.
Right.
No, it's learning now. It's growing.
That and deep fakes. They got deep fakes. They can make it look like you say or do something. You know what I mean? There's whole deep fake videos of,
you can like put yourself in like banging a porn star. It's like a whole thing.
Right.
Oh, like Luca Magnotta.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's the whole thing with this story is saying, was it something that's completely just made up and over history has just been so embellished that it turned. Actually, I read a thing that Bram Stoker from Dracula, his nephew, his great nephew or whatever, actually is making a whole thing on Bathory, on Elizabeth Bathory.
Huh.
So like a whole storyline. It's like the Dracula. So it's going to be books and everything.
I mean, we talked about this early on in this podcast. It is hella coincidental that this happened in Transylvania, of all places.
How cool, though. How cool.
And with the blood and all that. That's what they were saying. Maybe that whole rumor, her bathing in the blood, they were saying maybe it was tied to that. But that was a cool story. Yeah, although
I enjoyed looking at it from all of these perspectives.
Yeah, I never heard that angle like you were talking about, that like all the stuff that I like read and just kind of said, nah, that's the way. But I like that. It's different. It's kind of looking at it like, hey, we can't prove anything that she did, or you know what I mean? And looking at that angle that maybe she was framed, or it was
this dude wanted Transylvania.
Ulterior motives and stuff.
That's a fact checking this whole story that I read. It says they strive for accuracy and fairness, and they said if you see something or know something on this that doesn't look right or sound right, like, go ahead and call into us. But I mean, you don't know. You weren't there in 15 whatever.
Well, that's the thing. Like, who could ever exactly what he's saying? Like, who could ever substantiate any of those rumors? Because they're however many years ago. What is that?
A lot. It's a lot of years.
500-600 years ago.
500 some years ago.
But that was a whole part of reading into this too. They had a whole thing on what I was reading. It has innocent or guilty, and it goes through the whole story that Zap pretty much went through, and a whole nother angle of what kind of I think that we had in mind, like with the story, and that was a pretty good take on it.
But just looking at serial killers, like I looked that up, like who was the earliest serial? Because this is supposed to be like the female, most prolific, but not documented or not, for sure. You can't say. So I started looking up like some different facts just on serial killers in general. We already talked about the McDonald triad, which we call the McDahmer triad.
Yes,
which
we
are like
do.
signs and symptoms of, not signs and but just signs of maybe
Signs and
future
symptoms.
of a.
Please come to our office if you're
Right.
experiencing any of these symptoms.
Intentions to murder pets, small
Pets,
animals.
Please
Intentions
come see
to
us.
burn things. Intentions to pee your bed.
But back in the 1990s, there was a forensic psychologist, Dr. Mike Amat. I guess how you say that?
close enough.
Aamoddt. Mike Amat. I guess
take
how you
that.
say. He's a professor at Radford University. He started to get all this data together on serial killers starting like in 1900 up till current times and stuff. And just he looked at 3,000 U.S. serial killers and 10,000 victims to try to get like, stats and stuff like that. And they found that the majority of serial killers kill for enjoyment. So 31.8%, 30.1% for financial gain, 18.1% for anger, 6.3% for gang activity. So that would be your, mobsters and stuff like
Their
that.
day job.
Drive-bys.
1.4% to avoid arrest. And then they had cult hallucinations, convenience, attention. They were all down the list at
Right.
less than 1%. Serial killers, victims among the sexes is kind of split down the middle almost. So it's about 48.6% male and 51.4% female. So it's
Wow.
kind of even between those two. So 27% of all serial killer victims are under the age of 30. So that's like a high number. And then the next closest would be 10 to 19 or 18.1%.
Interesting.
Well, you're not really overpowering people at an older age if you're going to do it.
No, these are victims.
Oh, the victims.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm thinking like,
Yeah.
wow. that
I
threw
would
me
think
off.
that the victims would be older because they're
Easier.
prey.
Yeah, 27%, 20 to 29, 18.1% is 10 to 19, 17.7%, 30 to 39, and we're in 11.1% to 40 to 49.
Safe.
As far as well, I wouldn't say that.
11%. That's not
So if I had to ask you how they go about killing their victims, what weapons or what methods, what would you think number
Knife.
one would be?
knife.
What do you think, Zap?
Their hands.
Number one would be to shoot them. 43% with a
Wow.
gun. Yeah.
Just seems so much more violent.
What do you think number two would be? No, what did you say the first time?
Knife.
And what did you say?
Hands.
Zap would be right. Strangle.
No.
Yeah,
Crimes of
21.7.
passion.
And
See,
then
that shooting with a gun shit, that's a cop-out. How the fuck fun is that?
yeah, it's from a
It
distance.
just takes
Like,
away.
they got
everything.
video games for that shit.
Yep. And then
I want a hands-on serial killer,
right,
literally.
like Samuel Little.
Like Samuel L.
Yeah. So 14.8% stabbed, 9.2% bludgeoned, 7.2%.
Oh, bludgeon's
Yeah.
That's a crime there.
Three guys, one hammer.
Yep. 7.2% poisoned, 1.5%
cop-out.
axed, 1% drowned, 0.6% smothered, same thing with burned, and then run over, 0.2%.
What'd you say the axe was?
1.5%.
I'm surprised they separate axe from knife.
Yeah,
It's a whole different animal.
No, well, it's actually stabbed or axed.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
axed. Okay. Fun fact. My mom got back from her side of the family. She got this huge book and stuff saying about like stuff that happened with her family. Actually, one of the first murders held in America, a trial, an actual trial. My great grandfather was actually killed with an axe by his daughter's lover or whatever. But it was actually a cool story.
That's
Huh.
wild.
Compelling.
Yeah.
I'm compelled.
Yeah, I'll bring it in. You
We have
guys
to cover
can
that
read
one.
it.
Yeah.
We
cover
could.
it.
We
Yeah, you
could,
cover
I
it.
guess.
I
If you're
feel
comfortable with
compelled.
that. So how about what would you think would be the peak decade for serial killers,
60s.
Matt? I'm not boring you guys with this stuff, am I?
No,
I'm enthralled.
Okay.
Let's say the 80s.
Matt would be right.
God damn it.
Yes. So looking at active serial killers by the numbers here.
Years.
So in 1980s, in the decade of the 80s, there was around 700. And in the 60s, there was around 200.
Wow. I like hearing those numbers, though, because it tells me we'll have episodes for years.
Yeah, and they're going to be a lot back in that area. And then they've really dropped off. It ends here at 2010. Well, actually, in the 2010 to 2020, we're back down to probably about 100 active kills. So it's really dropped. Probably because what we talked about the other day, technology.
So is this serial killers or just active killers? Like
active serial killers, which a serial killer is
because
somebody
like the mass murders have been just popping up.
What's a serial killer, Dave?
it's somebody that kills, what is it, 2 or more within a certain. Let me look at that.
But these shootings and stuff now, I think they're considered mass shootings. I don't think they consider them. That's not like a serial killer, correct?
I don't know. I'm no scientist.
Because they're doing that. Like, I mean, they're most of them just want to get. I don't know.
I thought I had it written down here, but
Like that guy
it's like 2 or more over a certain amount of time. You know what I mean?
That crazy cat that shot out of the Vegas the window down on that country concert. Now that's just a mass murder.
Yeah,
That's
so
a
I would
mass
agree.
shooting.
I would agree that a mass murder is completely different from a serial murder, a serial killer.
Serial killer.
Like
saying
there's a pause.
Right. Cooling off period.
Yeah,
Back at it.
that's right.
Yeah. I got my fix. So, where would you think, what U.S. city would you think historically had the most serial killings?
Either California.
No,
City.
Well, say
Oh,
city.
city.
Yeah. This one kind of surprises me. Although, I guess I'm not say it's like a
I want to say L.A. or Seattle.
No.
Well,
I
fuck.
think East Coast.
Oh, East. Florida. Miami.
No.
Dang.
What is it?
It's Washington, D.C.
What?
Yeah.
Say what? Say what?
Surprises me.
What?
Yeah, and then the
Where are these facts from? Is this?
I made them up. No, it's from it's from that guy.
It's from the
from that guy.
It's from the Bathory trial.
It's
from
the-
that
yeah,
guy.
It's from the people that wrote that story, the Bathory story. It's all made up. The most total victims, what state? By U.S. state. What state, I should say, has the...
That has to be California.
That
Either
is
California or New York.
California. Yep. And lastly, like I said, good news, serial killers are on the decline, so that's a good thing.
Awesome.
But I just thought that'd be cool to look at some of the facts because it's a lot of what we cover are serial killers, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
just
this
to
was.
look at.
I'm interested. That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
But I think this Bathory chick, I think she was into some weird stuff. And I think she did, like Zap said again, just had these people over to heal and just got into some dark shit.
That's entirely possible.
But to go find somebody like on the street and be like, come here, I'm going to bite you and make you like cut your own flesh off and eat it. Like, I don't think she was into that shit. I'm sure she did try some flesh though.
We ran into that with Ray Myers Hollow. Remember that guy got killed because they thought he was a witch and they thought he was this and that or whatever else. And or I guess be a warlock. If you're a guy.
Warlock, yeah.
yeah.
Or a troll.
Yeah.
No,
you lived under a bridge.
warlock or wizard.
A wizard.
So you have witches and wizards, at least in the Harry Potter realm.
But what about wizards and warlocks?
You can't be well, I guess you could nowadays be a male witch, but the terminology would you call him a wizard, you said.
I would think.
Wiccan.
Okay. Well, anyway, this guy that Ray Myers, which I think was before Zap came on,
Ray Myers Hollow.
down in York, they murdered a guy because they thought he was a faith healer.
Oh.
He was basically using those hex signs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania Dutch stuff. Yeah. So
But then people, if they don't understand,
Blackstrap molasses.
along those lines. Yep.
Yeah.
people get scared if they don't understand stuff.
Right.
It's like human nature. So if instead of like trying to deal with it or learn about it, they just kill people.
Yep.
Yep.
Easy way out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, that was a cool one. Thanks to your friend for bringing that up. It was interesting to hear that take on it.
Brad.
And yeah, I didn't really look at it that way, but I'm glad you kind of put it out that way because it
It's a
makes
different
sense.
twist.
Yeah, how could you say for sure? So
Look, for all we know, this was a bedtime story that, gypsies told to their kids to scare the shit out of them to go to
Right.
sleep.
keep them in line. Yeah. So
Which is most of our nursery rhymes is like based on like some weird
Yeah, man.
killer shit.
yep. So you guys got anything else on this in closing?
I got nothing else other than from what I've read, Elizabeth Bathory was a saint.
She was.
Yeah, Elizabeth Bathory, blood countess, Guinness Book of World Record holder of most murders for a female, or just in most prolific female murderer of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, is the story true? We will never know.
We'll never know. We'll never know. All right, so I don't know what we'll be back with next week. Definitely a cool true crime or compelling story. And don't forget to find us on Facebook and Instagram at Old Dirty Basement, and TikTok at Old Dirty Basement Podcast. Look in the show description for links to all our cool stuff and our show support page. If you want to go there and support us to help us do cool content, we'd appreciate it. And I guess that's it for now, so we'll catch you where?
On the flip side.
If we don't see you sooner, we'll see you later.
Peace. Thanks for hanging out in the Old Dirty Basement. If you dig our theme music like we do, check out the Tsunami Experiment. Find them on Facebook. Their music is available streaming on Spotify and Apple, and where great music is available.
You can find us at Old Dirty Basement on Facebook and Instagram, and at Old Dirty Basement Podcast on TikTok.
Peace.
We outie 5000.